Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Jim.
Hi there.
Hey. Hi, Jim.
Good evening, all.
Hey, Jim.
One, two, three, four, five, six. Okay, we have everybody but Melody. It's 6:31. Do we want to go ahead and start? Call the meeting order?
Sure.
Good evening, all. I just have one adjustment on the agenda. We had plans to talk with both police and highway tonight, and then police, there's a conflict and Kristen can't make it. So I think, Becky, you've got Ellen coming in to take that slot with tax collector?
And she's here now.
Okay, as we speak, okay. So we'll have Ellen, if that works for everybody, we'll have Ellen talk over through the tax collector budget for fiscal year 2022. And then Tim will join us around 7:30 is that what you're?
Yes.
Okay. So if that works for everybody. Since we do have Ellen here now, do we want to go ahead and start with tax collector budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Hi, Ellen. You got to unmute.
I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't eat too much.
I was with my daughter who's vegetarian, so that worked out pretty well, actually.
So what does she do? Does she do one of the products that looks like turkey and tastes like turkey but isn't turkey? Or
Yeah, she made one up. It looked like a little mini turkey, but it didn't taste like one.
but more power to her.
Yeah,
I mean, that's great.
yeah, I'm probably healthier for it.
Well, momentarily.
Yeah. So Ellen, do you want to kick us off here?
Certainly. My budget for 23 is exactly the same as it was for 22.
Would you like me to put it up on share it?
Yeah, that would be good. If we
Okay.
could see.
FinCom 23. Sorry, just 1 second.
Of course. I'm amazed you can do all this. So
It's not practice.
I'm sure.
Be so sure.
Sorry, this
And-
one was, I don't know how I buried it so deeply so fast. Shoot. Oh, here it is. Department requests. Share screen. Screen.
Oh, there we are. Yep. Okay, I might add that although this is the same as this past fiscal 22, some of the costs have actually gone up. But I'm gambling on the fact that I can make do and manage to keep within the budget for 23, even though they have gone up. My banking fees, certain parts of them have gone up, but because it happened midway in this year, I don't have a feel yet for how it's going to influence the whole year's budget. So I just left it the same and hopefully it'll work. The other one, of course, as you know, postage has gone up. But I think I have enough pre-stamped envelopes that I should at least be able to go through part of next year without having to buy any. So that's why I just said, okay, I'm going to keep it the same and pray that I'm going to be able to pull it off. Of course, the computer maintenance thing, I never know from year to year until January, till I actually get the, they actually will tell us what the amount is, but they don't make a decision. My company doesn't make a decision until January, even though they know that we need that information earlier than that. So, any questions? Yes, Jim?
Oh, the software, that isn't good for more than 1 year, or just this?
No.
this-
Okay, first of all, it's a software package. So I am paying basically for the package for
Mhm.
their ability to take all of the information they get from the registry of motor vehicles and create the excise tax bills, all the information they get from Kevin in assessing, convert it over to be able for me to be able to do the real estate tax bills. So it is a program that basically shall I say I rent? Is that I don't like to think of it that way. They're also available for any help I need. I call them and I get a person, amazingly enough,
I see.
and discuss any problems I have, or why is it doing this, or why is it doing that, or what have you.
So they inhale all of this information for you, correct?
Yes, they do.
I see. Okay.
And I frankly would not want to try to make those conversions.
Yeah, understandable.
Anybody else?
Well, the only question I had, Ellen, was looking at the budget, I saw there was also a line called certifications for,
Yeah.
I think, $1,000.
Yes, that's because I'm a certified mass collector and have been since the program started, which was like 1985. And the town voted to have this as a reward for the, for the assessor and for the treasurer. And therefore it's been in existence as long as the whole certification program has been in existence.
So we'll still have to
Just
fund that
ups my-
line.
Go ahead, pardon?
I was going to say, so we still have to fund that line.
Yeah, but that's not
And-
part of my budget. That's payroll, basically.
Yeah, that's payroll.
Oh, that's payroll. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so thank you for doing that. And if you look at, like, when we were looking for Ryan, right in the job description, it says basically you have 3 years to get certified. Which is certified by our professional association, which means 3 years of school.
Is Ryan certified just by any chance?
Not yet, because he hasn't been there 3 years. I think
see.
he'll probably be ready to take the exam on a guess for treasurer this coming fall. But then again, we lost a year. We did not have school in 20. So maybe maybe even another year. I don't know. That's him. I have no idea.
I see.
So that line is for the time that you spend getting certified.
No, basically it's a reward for being certified.
Oh, I see. And it's paid through
Because-
payroll salary. Got it. Now I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, because it's just saying, we required this and you did it.
Yep. That's the incentive.
Yeah. And it's a local option.
Ellen,
Anything else?
you may not, I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but when does the town's books get audited and by whom?
Okay, I can tell you by whom. I don't know when, because that's up to, Becky communicates with them and I have no idea when they ever come in. Sometimes they flop in for a day or two and then disappear for a month. And
Mhm.
it's Scanlon. I don't know what the exact firm is. Its name's Tom. It's Tom Scanlon, but I don't know if it's Scanlon Associates or what the name of the firm is. It's out of South Deerfield. At least that's the one we've been using for years. And Becky can brief you more on that.
Okay. Becky?
Yes, Jim?
Yeah, well, I was wondering if you could answer the question.
I think Ellen did. We had been doing annual audits, and as we pre-bonding for the MLP, and because we don't have to do the annual audit since we didn't get bonded, I think we did 3 in a row, and now we're moving back to every other year, every 2 years.
So we will be audited in fiscal year 23, is that what you're saying?
No,
and not
no,
22?
because
We're
we,
gonna be audited for 21 and 20, sometime this winter or spring. It still needs to be scheduled.
For just those 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we've been audited through 19.
But audits aren't on this budget, right?
No, that's not, nothing to do with my budget.
Has
It's a
nothing to
separate
do
audit
with
line.
Ellen at all.
Okay,
It's
just,
a separate
Except that
audit
she's
line.
one of the financial people that the audit is about.
So after 21, we're going to skip a year with the audits and go to 23. Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
We're gonna do 21 and 20 together, and then we
Mhm.
would do 23 and 22 together.
23 and 22. Okay.
thanks for making this very clear, Ellen.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, Ellen, it's just a question. I just want to compare at least the data I have for our current, the current fiscal year budget
Yeah.
with the new one. And I'm coming up several $100s higher on this new.
I have a copy of my budget and they're exactly the same between 22 and 23.
Okay, yeah, and I'm just looking at the expense report.
Well, the expense report just means what was spent. Last year, I didn't go to like the Cape Conference, so I didn't have any expenditures
Yeah,
there.
no, I'm looking at the budget,
Oh.
not the actual.
Oh, well, I have no idea. To me, I thought the budget was approved at 24,657 last year, and that's what it is this year.
That's what I saw too. I was looking at the budget.
Were
And
you
that's,
looking at 21s and 22?
Yeah, I'm looking at the expense report and I'm showing about 23,830 for operating.
That would have been probably fiscal 21. Because I didn't pull fiscal 21 off my machine. I just pulled 22 and 23, 22 being this fiscal year.
Jim, I'm looking at the budget that was presented at annual town meeting, and for FY '22, we had 24,657.
Which is
On the
exactly what
expenses
I'm,
Okay,
which is exactly what I'm doing for 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're looking at is fiscal 21 for the whole year. And that was lower because among other things, as I recall, and this is strictly off the top of my head, I put in for the increase in the postage again. You know, they're doing it every year or more frequently than that. And a couple of other things that had gone up.
Jim, the last budget-
okay, I got you. Okay, and we're not, the $1,000 for the collectors, the town collectors, that's not happening this go
Of
around?
course that is. But it's not in my budget. It is in payroll. There's a grouping of stuff listed together.
Yeah,
There's collector's salary, collector's expenses, and and whatever it's called for
certification.
certification. Those three are three different lines in the budget. And I do not put in for that 1,000. It's a payroll.
okay, so that shows up elsewhere, some other
Yes,
budget.
it doesn't show up on
$1,000.
me at all.
Where would that show up? What budget would that show up in?
It shows up in our town budget, Jim. All salary lines show up in the town budget and the expense report.
Okay, so
But it
this,
is not part of her budget. We don't entertain the salary lines within the budget request.
yeah, I'm talking about the town collector certification line, not the salary line.
No,
Right.
that's, but
But
It's a
it's a
separate
salary
salary
line.
line.
it's paid as a salary.
Okay,
That's what that is. She's getting paid for having received the certificate. It's like a bonus.
okay, gotcha.
I know it's confusing because I have several other lines that are $1,000 because
Yeah.
of what they are. The filings for the tax takings, the newspaper legal notices, and the binding of commitment books are all $1,000. And the two of them dealing with tax takings may be high and may be low. Because last year it was well over that, over the 2,000. This year it's going to be under it. I may not even have anything to file if I get some money by Monday.
Okay, I think I understand.
Ellen, do we get any break for dealing sort of exclusively with Shutesbury or mailings in Shutesbury for the postage? Just curious. I didn't think so. Yeah.
No, the only way I could do it would be to pay the money to have everything barcoded. And I'm not
Ah,
about to do that. No, we get no break whatsoever.
I
And
see.
furthermore, anything we mail has to go down to Hartford before it comes back here.
Yeah,
So no breaks. And we can't do, we have to do first class. So we can't do like third class or bulk mail or any of that.
yeah, okay.
So there's
Just want-
absolutely no, I wish there was,
Yeah, mails are getting very expensive.
but I have to do them because, people ask why I just don't do an online thing. But at one point I priced that out and that was good. In order for me to even do it, I was going to have 75% of the people who get bills accepting it as email. And then you got the problem of everybody changing their emails.
Yeah, no, that's no good.
It's worse than changing addresses.
Mhm.
But I'm glad the town Dropbox has probably made it cheaper for people to bring their taxes in than to mail it.
Yes, a lot of people are doing that. What kind of almost is interesting, how many people put a stamp on it and then drop it in my box,
Mhm.
in the lockbox. Like, what a waste of 58 cents.
Well,
that's not
Ellen,
the
you
thing.
should be saving those stamps.
Oh, I do sometimes, but I
Yeah.
don't use them. I've
Give her
been
a
known
little
to mail.
steamer so she could take them off.
No, I actually have been known to give them back, give the envelopes, if they haven't sealed them, back to the people
That's
when
great.
I see them.
Ellen, thank you for this level of detail. This is really helpful.
Oh, I've been doing this, George, for years. This is exactly what I do.
Yep.
How I
we
do
always
my budget.
appreciate it. Yep.
As much as I hate doing it every year, but but anyway, no problem at all.
Alan, do you have an
Yes.
idea of what percentage of Shutesbury taxpayers pay their taxes directly versus those that the bank and other borrowing institutions pay for them?
No, I don't have, I
Yeah, I was
could
curious.
take a look at last quarter and get a feel for it. I
Yeah.
do know that I get one lump sum transfer of over $300,000, which consists of a whole bunch of different banks.
Every
So I
quarter.
probably get maybe 400,000 from banks, and that's out of over 1 million. But let me take a look at that when I have time. I will
it's
take a
kinda-
look at that.
yeah,
No, I'll be glad to do it. I'm curious. Now you got me curious.
yeah.
So I'll try to do it for you. And I might add that I'm starting to train Ryan tomorrow
Oh, excellent.
morning.
Hmm.
Great
I'm
news.
thrilled.
Yeah, that's great news.
That is great news.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm going to try to do that. Let me make a note of that, Jim. And when I have chance, if I have chance, I will do it. Okay.
I would think with a fairly elderly population in Shutesbury, many of whom have owned their homes for at least 20, 25, 30 years, that many are paying their taxes directly to Unibank as opposed to,
No. Yeah,
yeah,
I see what you mean. Yeah, you mean through my online banking.
through online
A lot
banking.
of people
yeah.
don't do that because they don't like online. They have trouble with computers or what have you.
Oh, my God.
You'd be amazed at how many people don't want any part of a computer. And especially, I shouldn't say older people because I'm one of them, but an older person, but still, they just don't feel comfortable with it. And especially putting your bank account information in there. So some people don't do it, but then they do it other ways. I have somebody that comes in. Well, actually, she no longer comes in, but a family member comes in every year, every quarter with
Cash.
cash.
Oh, should
Now-
you be accepting cash is really problematic when it
No,
comes.
it isn't. I just run it down to the bank that afternoon.
And
Yeah.
she's
It's not
bonded.
problematic at all.
You give them a receipt for it.
Yeah,
Bonded.
well, that's,
Yeah, I have a
Let's move on.
three-part receipt book. I give them one. I attach it to the tax bill copy, signed and everything. I take another one and attach it to my copy of their tax bill. And the third one stays in the book. The auditors love it.
yeah.
It's total proof. And, and it goes up right away. I mean, it goes in that day.
Mhm.
So it's not a danger at all that it's going to somehow disappear or get lost or what have you.
Well, just, as you know, a lot of organizations don't even accept cash.
But we legally have to. The only thing that court cases have said we don't have to accept are payment in pennies. And that was a court case. That's case law.
Okay.
But everything else you have to accept.
That's-
I know they don't want to, when when they say they can't, that's illegal.
Yeah, Ellen, just a question, just since we have you, it's not a budget related question, but just since we have
Yeah.
you, how's collections going in general? We still.
They're fine.
Still at a
fine.
very high.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, matter of fact, as of now, as I mentioned earlier, I have one property outstanding for last fiscal year and it's going on tax title on Monday if it doesn't get paid.
Okay,
So, I mean, that's makes
Great.
me feel really good. Yeah,
yeah,
it is. Yeah, I'm, people are still paying regardless of, the economy or COVID or anything else. People are still paying their bills,
yeah. Okay.
which is really good. We like that.
Mhm.
At least I like that.
Any other
Anything else?
questions, comments for Ellen? Ellen, I just appreciate with very short notice, you being able to take some time to move up your slot to tonight.
Oh, sure, Jim. No problem. It wasn't a problem tonight, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Good night.
And look, everybody have a wonderful holiday season. Stay safe and stay healthy if I don't see you.
And
You
likewise.
too, Ellen.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, before we move on, Becky, so Kristen should be okay for 2 weeks from now. You're on mute.
The question I had for you guys is on February 8th, we had scheduled the accountant and the collector. Does it make sense to put the police where the collector was for February 8th?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
I see a lot of nodding of heads. Yes,
Well,
yes, nodding.
One question about that. Where is the committee, the police study committee? And do we think that the budget actually, it makes more sense to push it out that far anyways because of the work they're doing?
No.
Well, we had this discussion in our last meeting, and I think what we heard is we're not gonna, even February, we're not gonna get an outcome from that
Oh, yeah,
committee, right?
Actually, that's true. I do remember
Yeah.
that. Yep.
Yeah,
Scheduled to
but
February.
unless somebody sees a reason for a concern with it, and I don't think I see any of that reaction. There's no problem waiting until February for police,
Correct.
right? Okay, so we'll stick with whoever we have scheduled for 2 weeks from now. I'm
We
not sure.
have fire and library.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Believe it.
all right. Okay, we want to go through minutes from our last meeting. And I think what, as you mentioned earlier, Becky, we'll have Tim around 7:30.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody with changes for the minutes?
I sent out an updated version. Hopefully folks saw that.
How recent, AJ?
That would have been this
3:34.
afternoon, maybe. Yeah, there you go. 3:34.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I
you
don't
didn't get
have
it?
that.
Hmm.
I have it. I just haven't had a chance
Okay.
to.
I was just, there were a bunch of typos. It was basically just fixing some sloppiness and language stuff. And then there were some corrections to like the headers with spelling of names and that sort of thing. I always count on Susie to set me straight with with those, yeah, since she knows everybody in town and knows how to spell her name.
But I missed one, AJ.
Okay.
If you want to put it after Tim Logan, he's the other library trustee that's in the header.
Okay, got it.
I just had a general, I just throw this out to everyone, under the first section for library pilot project.
Yeah.
AJ, you capture what the purpose was between the title for number one and A, like the segment A.
Mhm.
You highlight what the purpose was. I guess it's not clear to me going through the minutes here that, I mean, we accomplished the purpose. for this section.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not really clear that that comes across in these minutes, that we as a finance committee got to the library director the information she needed to meet her MBLC obligation.
So I know we sort of explicitly towards the end of this conversation checked in with Marianne and asked her if she had everything she needed from us for wrapping up her application, and she confirmed that she did. So maybe I can just add a bullet to that effect towards
Yeah, that's
at
exactly
end
the
of this
point.
section. Yeah.
That's exactly
Okay.
the point that
Okay. So
because
I'm just going
in
to
the
add.
first section, you raise a bunch of questions, or there is a bunch of questions that need answering. And I think by the end of this discussion, we did get answers to these questions.
Yeah, if I may, on that subject, she asked us, really the question was, what were the pathways to financing this, I think was the terminology she was using.
Yep.
And basically, we gave her 3 options.
Mhm.
And I think, Jim, is that what you're referring to? Those 3 options are not necessarily specifically
Yeah, that's part of
stated?
it. That's a lot of it. It's basically the there's a couple of questions that AJ captures in that section A,
Mhm.
and I think by the end of this discussion we addressed all of those. And
But
Mary
it's
Ann
not
had what she needed to meet her commitment to MBLC.
But the pathways are not explicitly stated in this section in our minutes.
So by 3 options, George, you mean cash, borrowing, and debt exclusion override?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah,
The only thing I would
it's in
say
there.
is cash borrowing. Oh, it is in there specifically?
Yeah.
It's in different places, but I guess the point is I think to kind of connect what both of you are saying is that maybe there could be a bullet at the end of this section that sort of wraps up
Yes.
the discussion, kind of as we did in the moment where we said, through some combination of those 3 options, this was something that the town will be able to manage, and then
The 3
that
options.
Mary Ann.
I'd say a bullet, the 3 options that the result of the conversation was the 3 options were, and then just have a sub bullet for all 3.
Yeah.
Somewhat in the bullet E where Bob summed it up. The only one that isn't in that bullet is the one was added on G.
Right.
So E and G cover it, but if you want to put another one, go ahead.
I think one of the things that happened in this conversation is that I think that point bullet E, where I made a statement, I think I said it because it was clear that we had already answered the question that was at the top of the header. To my satisfaction, at least, that there's plenty of resources, and that's what the state wants to know. And we are, unlike many towns, we have options to do it, any of those 3 by some combination of and/or of borrowing and cash reserve. So I think that's all she really needed to know, is kind of a formal thing. And she got that. I think she got that clearly, and I think the minutes show it, but
No, she definitely got it.
Yeah.
She repeated it. I didn't have
Anything
anything else. I didn't.
Say that again, George?
I had nothing else.
Yeah. Anybody, anything else for the minutes?
motion to approve as a
Move him. Seconded.
Vote on the minutes?
Arvanitis, aye.
Sartira,
Groves, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosher, aye.
Walton, aye.
Good job, AJ.
All right, sure, thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it, AJ.
Yeah.
All right, next item, we have regional school. First, maybe a recap from our Saturday, November 20 meeting, and then our next meeting is scheduled for Saturday, the 11th of December.
Yep.
So some discussion about preparation for that.
That's going to be at 9 to 11.
We often meet beforehand and so.
I know, but I mean, it's still the same time that it always has been, correct?
I've got a question. Are we gonna want to meet with the select board before that? Or is there any reason to confab with the select board and the school committee before that meeting? Or are we pretty set as of our last meeting? I mean, I feel that we're pretty clear, but just a question. So would that be useful?
My thought on that is what is the agenda for the next meeting? I don't know if that's perfectly clear yet, what the next meeting will be all about. And then depending on that agenda, you know, what type of preparation do we need to take either within our committee or working with the select board and school committee that we need to take to prepare?
Good point.
Susie?
I think that, I wonder if Becky has a sense, but I thought what I heard at the meeting was the regional school committee will take in the information from our previous meeting and perhaps make a proposal. Maybe not all the details, but that it's in their court. And I feel like part of the process is that they will now be more asserting a model. I don't know if anybody else felt that was the point of the meeting.
AJ and then Bob.
I mean, I got the sense that they were going to present a set of models similar to what they've done in the past, and that's part of what the last meeting accomplished. Is it sort of gave them right? I mean, didn't they specifically asked every, you know, all the participants were there particular models that they wanted to see.
Mhm.
So even if what you say is true, Susie, that, you know, that they're going to, that the committee is going to sort of come prepared to recommend a model, it seems like there's going to be some part of the discussion where they're going to, presumably Doug Slaughter is going to work up a set of different models that were discussed at the meeting or requested at the meeting.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, Bob, and then
Yeah, just to
And then
continue
George.
that, just to continue that thought, I think you're right. I think that the meeting that we attended last time was the quote extra meeting. And it was there for informational purposes for those that really weren't up to speed on this issue of the assessment method. And it was there for a preliminary kind of ask from the different towns in terms of that particular issue. And so they'll do what they've done at the first meeting in prior years in the second meeting, which is present a spreadsheet with options on it, as you described. But I think that they wanted to provide an informational kind of setting for people, many of whom seemed to be clueless last year, so they could pick up some of the issues involved in the assessment method and hear people speak about it. So I think you're right. There's going to just be the typical spreadsheet with the different colors in it and everything, and it'll be probably more. Maybe there'll be more budget information than we saw. Hopefully there will be. You know.
And that's what I was going to say. If I can jump in now, I'm sure that's what they're going to do. What they do every year is there's a package and it'll show the budget that the school committee, because it is their responsibility. So that's not new. They're going to have that, and there'll be an explanation how they got to it, and no doubt whether, you know, where the cuts are, if there are cuts, and anything else of that or increases. And then there's the assessment, which, yes, supposedly the regional school committee was going to have greater say on which methods. But at the end of our meeting, when we were all asking Doug, when Doug asked us what to include in the package that they're going to be sending to us, it's basically the same stuff as you said, Bob, that we always get. It's going to be the different assessment methods and how they affect all the towns. So from what I think, I'm not sure how much was gained at that last meeting, because there was really no conversation about the difference between the 5-year rolling average and the statutory. So I don't think there was a whole lot of education for those people who aren't educated on it. But I do think that we're going to be in the same exact situation. We're going to see how they built the budget. We're all going to talk about the budget. Then we're going to move on, and we're going to be negotiating which method. And as you saw from Amherst and Leverett, we know what positions they're taking. And I see nothing different. Honestly, I'm not sure there was a whole lot of value in that meeting.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that was interesting was what Becky said at the end of the meeting. To me, it was interesting that in the past, we've had to deal with the North Star of Amherst number that they produced, say, this is our number. Everything else can change. You guys can do whatever you want. You can change anything you want, but this number is a North Star. It doesn't change. Everything rotates around it. And Becky made a good point that that's not necessarily the way it should be looked at. We should look at that as also a movable target, and we'll see if they do present it that way or not. It would be a good thing if they didn't present it the way they presented it in the past, because it's kind of been a controlling factor in the way we structure the discussion after that. And I think it should be just as negotiable as everybody else's numbers, really.
Susie,
I think also it was very noticeable to me that Julie Shively was not there, and the guy named Phil Carter didn't have the same strident tone or history. So I don't think Leverett may or may not be in the same position they've taken before. And then Andy Steinberg's comment looked like an anachronism. He may not carry his argument well, because it didn't have any sort of other than I want to go back. So those are just two observations.
Yeah. Regarding Julie, she wasn't there, but he did say some of the things that Julie does say, like, I'm worried about Amherst, and basically saying that Leverett is going to do whatever Amherst wants. And that's been the story from her all along. And I heard that from him. I heard the same thing from him. He doesn't show his emotion as much as Julie does, but it was the same message. As for Andy, as far as I'm concerned, Andy's just negotiating, and he's starting in the negotiations to tell us basically that he doesn't want us going up anymore. That's what he's after. He knows we can't go back to the 5-year rolling average. He knows we couldn't possibly afford to do that. And he said he expects it or he wants it, but it's just a negotiating position as far as I'm concerned. But the message I personally took from that was he doesn't want us to ask. He's really going to fight us if we ask for more than 65%. And as I think this committee said, and I think Becky said it last year, and I think a few others agreed, they probably want us to scale back from 65 to 55 or 50. And this is, I think, what Andy was really saying. The one thing that I didn't like about, and that's fine, that's negotiating. I was okay with that. I do wish he didn't open up a can of worms about regionalization. I thought that was a little nasty and unnecessary, but clearly it's because he wants to, one town, after all the hard work, chose not to do it. But, I would just say that he's just drawing a line in the sand. He does not want us to raise that percentage from 65, and he's going to fight it. And that's the message I got from that.
That's his prerogative, as you know, George. He's good at it, but we have a place at the table too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not intimidated by it, but that's what I took away from it.
So if there is a release of budget proposals, then are we going back to Bob's question? Should we meet ahead of the December 11th meeting with the other parts of our town?
I would suggest yes. If they send us those models in advance of the next meeting, I think we should have a discussion about.
I think we should have this.
I think we should ask Becky if she could try to pressure them to send us that information and the agenda ASAP, so that we know we can plan accordingly.
But I would say even if we didn't have it, Steve Sullivan should be meeting with us, the school committee for sure, and the select board. They're always been a part of this conversation year after year. And the question is how, what direction and what message do we really want to send? And the select boards, especially because they're hearing from the community.
So the next select board meeting is Monday, the 6th of December. And which is, different than normal, but it's the only meeting before December 11th. And Finance Committee doesn't meet again until after December 11th. Is that right?
Yeah, we probably be either the 14th or 15th, Tuesday or Wednesday, after.
Okay. So that's FinCom. So we would need to maybe schedule a meeting on the Wednesday, 12/8. I'm not sure what else is already scheduled for then. I mean, just to get out in front of it in case they do send information that needs to be reviewed. I mean, because if we just meet a half hour before the meeting, I don't think it gives us enough time.
12/8 works for me. That's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does that
So
work for
that's a
everyone?
day, that's a day that the select board should be available,
Yes.
and the school board, or Dan
They
and
should be.
Steve, or,
They
Yeah.
normally just meet on Thursdays, so I'll email everyone and see if we can set that up.
Becky, when's a personnel board meeting next?
I was trying to remember, I don't know, George.
And I do the minutes, April did, so I don't have it documented.
You don't have it? Melody, do you remember?
No.
I'm looking at the calendar now, there's nothing scheduled on the 8th.
Because I think the personnel board was next week on the Wednesday. I think we moved it to Wednesday because we couldn't make this Thursday, and so we moved it to next week on Wednesday. So I'm pretty sure that's a conflict for me, Melody, and possibly Becky.
Do you think, are you sure on the Wednesday?
I seem to recall that we couldn't do this Thursday, and for some reason, next Thursday wasn't working for everyone, so we decided we would do Wednesday. That's my recollection. We'd have to check with April.
It's not on the calendar yet.
No,
Yeah,
'cause we
that
have to
happens.
post it. All right, I will check, I'll check that out, and
That's my recollection.
What time does the personnel board generally meet?
they've been meeting
6:15.
6:30?
15.
Oh, 6:15.
So it might be that we'll have to ask personnel to meet either, if we could do an hour from 5:30 to 6:30 with the three boards and ask personnel to meet at 6:30. I think we can do it all. Are people good with those times?
Sounds like a really fun night.
Yeah,
Non-stop.
Yep.
December,
doesn't get any better than this.
December 8th
Yeah,
Yes.
at
Wednesday.
5:30.
Yeah,
Yeah, I better put that on the calendar.
And yeah, in order to have some success with that, I mean, it'd be good. Anything you can do, Becky, to get something from Doug agenda-wise before that.
I will.
only 3 days before the real meeting, so let's hope.
Yeah, I'm sure he
Yeah.
could meet that date. I didn't think he could meet the Monday date
No.
when the select board was meeting. Okay,
I guess I do have one other thing to say about that meeting. AJ, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I was going to make a couple just general reactions to the meeting, but go ahead.
No, well, I was just gonna say, I really appreciated that you asked them for the 50/50. When they showed how the budget, I can't remember the specific component. Oh, yeah, how much is on aid and how much is on population. And I think the 50/50 question, that was the one in my mind. I think it's gonna come out to like an 85% method. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to share a couple of general thoughts that I had. One is that I thought we were the most prepared town. And I think that was reflected just in the quality of sort of talking points that Jim shared. And I thought it just came through that Shutesbury was sort of well prepared to discuss the topic and had really given serious thought to their questions, which was really good, I think. And the second point I wanted to make is that I did think it was a significantly better position for us to start from than last year, where there was really like this, I know this was they didn't quite do this meeting last year, but the first Four Towns meeting last year, there was really some troubling discussion about, sort of reverting back to the regional agreement. And, I think, Amherst obviously had its position, but I felt like at least Pelham and Leverett were sort of starting from a position of, we'd like to stick at the 65%. And, that's a much better place for us to be beginning this process than was the case last year.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Bob, you had your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think one thing that Andy Steinberg said that I agreed with was the way the budget was presented was if there was any reduction in the ask, that it would be considered to be a cut. Where I'd like to see, personally, I would like to see both in this regional budget and in our own school budget, the enrollment numbers, because I think that's a critical thing for us to come to grips with overall when we're planning these budgets, what's happening with enrollment over time. And so I hope that the regional school will provide us with that data. And I think that our school committee should also provide us with that data, because I think it's important to see that. And then we know what we're dealing with in terms of the number of kids that we're educating and what the trend is over time.
Susie.
I think it's also important to remember that COVID is still very much affecting enrollment and budgets and staffing and extra activities that they wouldn't have to do if they wasn't dealing with COVID. I'm curious about what the state did in terms of funding formula for the enrollment, which normally is taken out of October of this year. And we know that there are parents that are still homeschooling their kids because they don't want them in a public building with COVID. So I don't know what the enrollments are how the enrollments are gonna pan out. And then we probably don't know what will happen when people have been managing their kids' education for the last 2 years and found different ways to do things. We don't know how that will settle out once COVID clears out of our culture. So I think it's a pretty big unknown, and I'm curious for whether the state actually used the enrollment figures because they gave us a pass on that the previous year.
That's a very good point, but it's also, you're also right about that. So it's been an extraordinary period that we've been involved in, and so the data is going to be somewhat difficult to understand, if at all. But that one thing that I would like to see in the budget too, and hopefully we'll see it in Shutesbury's elementary school budget, is this money that's coming in, how that money from the government might be supporting the budget or supporting their efforts. There's a lot of money that's around, and it's sort of good for the finance committee to be aware of how much and where it's going and where it's coming from. I think that's something I personally don't feel I've got a good grip on. I don't know about the rest of the members of the committee.
Yeah, we did ask during that meeting, and I think Doug did make a note to include that in maybe the next meeting, is to talk about potential some of these federal act funding possibilities. So at least they should be prepared to talk about it. Whether they have anything that's really precise to numbers, that's another question, but it seems like they should be ready they should be prepared based on the request at the last meeting to talk to that topic.
Hope so.
Yeah, one thought I had was, I thought that the presentation that Doug put together, and I guess Mike, I don't know whether Mike had something to do with that, and I thought it was an effective presentation, and I think it probably was was helpful for us. And I think it allowed all the participants from all 4 towns to be from the same, we're all in the same starting place. This is what's going on over the last several years. This is where we are today. These are the key definitions. So I thought that was a very productive, valuable presentation that they put together to make sure, again, that we're all 4 of us, all 4 towns are all speaking from the same starting place. I think a good start compared to prior years.
One thing I'll be interested to see is last year when that meeting started, AJ made a comment about how, the position that we're starting from this year is so different than last year. But one thing I do remember at the beginning of last year was the members from Amherst, the council, I think it's the town council, were giving the region a hard time about the budget and the cost per pupil, and they were comparing themselves to other towns in Western Mass. So it's going to be interesting to see the budget side. We talk about there's the budget side and the assessment side. So I'll be interested to see what kind of pressure the school gets regarding their budget.
Yeah, George, and I think there's been a lot of pressure from other stakeholders to not cut the budget yet again this year. So I think it's it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have some new members.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, comments for school? All right, we'll be ready to go next Wednesday with select board and school committee. Prepare for the next go around.
At 5:30 PM, is that the time?
Yeah,
Yes,
unless Becca, you get unless you indicate otherwise, that if there's some conflict, you'll let us know.
I sure will.
No. All right. Request. This is a transfer request for the finance committee.
Yes, it is. I think Susie helped us figure out what happened last year on the assistant treasurer's budget line. Near the end of the year, it was suggested that $2,200 be taken out of the assistant treasurer's line and that we carry it forward carry forward 2,200, which is half the full amount of 4,400. And so it ended up that we didn't carry it forward because it's a really high bar to carry forward any payroll lines, as well as my shaky memory of the conversation that was had at the finance committee meeting. But just for everyone's general knowledge moving forward is Gail does not, because of the auditors and because of state statute, does not really allow us to move budget money for salaries into the next year. So right now we are sitting with, oh my goodness, Tim even made it. So we are sitting with a shortfall of 2,200. The personnel board has come up with a more exacting number of about $3,800. I would like to round that request up to $4,000 because we don't know what is going to happen this year, the second half of this year. And I would like that margin to be there for Ellen without having to come back. I think it'll be a difference of a few $100s. I'm just not sure which way it'll fall. We do know that Ryan will be starting to train Ellen. I mean, Ellen will be starting to train Ryan. Oh, thank God she wasn't here. On tomorrow. So I'm bringing forward this request for an $1,800 transfer to the assistant treasurer line.
It's the collector, is it not, Becky?
You are correct again. Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
The
'cause-
assistant collector line, assistant town collector line.
Have we made any transfers yet this year from FinCom?
Yeah, we
I can't
transferred for
remember.
that
For the
paving,
paving job.
50 grand.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
36.
thank
How
you.
fast we forget.
We're out of money.
I forget all the
I
time.
drive by the
Jim.
fire station
I
every
need
day.
Schedules. If I don't have schedules, I forget everything.
But we didn't have to transfer the full 50.
Right, it was 36. It was 25, 51 was the total, is that what it was?
Yeah,
So we transferred 26 or something like that.
yeah.
So
But
we
it's
could-
not yet reflected here. I've got to give Gail a copy of those minutes.
Can I
Okay.
make a motion that we move 1,800 out of the FinCom reserve line to pay for the balance of the assistant collector?
Susie, what amount did you say?
I thought you said 1,800.
You did. I just was double checking. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll second that.
Any comments? Any further discussion? Okay, do we want to vote?
Arvanitis, aye.
Chartier,
Groves, I,
Hemingway, aye.
Issue I.
Mosher, aye.
Walt and I. Becky, do we need to
Sign
visit town hall?
I will get that form ready. Yes, if you could visit town hall on Friday or afterwards, that would be great.
If you
I
please
will
send us a
have it in your
reminder.
box.
Once you put it in there, could you just shoot us a quick reminder?
I better, yeah.
Please, that would be helpful for me.
Oh, Tim's
I
here.
appreciate it.
I sure will, George. Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you all. I really appreciate this and I'm very happy about the situation. It's given Ellen great relief. Thank you all.
Mhm. This works out okay for Ryan? This is a good thing for Ryan?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. It bridges him into a better, it extends his skills into a new area that dovetails perfectly with what he's already doing.
Yeah, from the personnel board's perspective, it's, we really like his energy. We like the job he's doing. His enthusiasm, of course, it just bubbles over. And so this is going to help us keep him in our town. And treasurers and tax collectors are hard to find these days. There's a lot of competition for them from the other towns. And the other real benefit from it is a lot of towns our size, in fact, most towns our size have treasurer collector positions. It's a single position by a single person. So if we were to have to replace him, there's people out there with that combined skill set doing those two jobs simultaneously. So that would, I think, be consistent for us in the future if that was the case. Although, judging from how things sound with Ryan, he's here for the long haul, which is really, it's a win-win.
I think so too.
Okay. Cool. Looks like we have Tim on board here.
Hi,
Yeah,
Tim.
we do. Unfortunately, I don't have a camera, so
That's
there's
okay.
it's just audio only.
Oh,
works.
That
No
works.
worries. Yes.
We'll have to make it work, Tim.
Okay.
We'd rather see you, but,
It's me.
all right.
So Tim, I've put your budget up on the screen.
Yeah, I see it.
I just think it's great. You did a great job, Tim. It's wonderful. I appreciate what you did with the budget. Looks
Yeah,
really
and,
yeah.
and the detail. I mean, the answers are all here.
Okay, let's see. Everything's at least level funded with some exceptions. I just took a look at like highway materials, and that's that's been at that rate for several years. I just thought to neaten it up, if we cut it back to 23,000, I think I can live with that pretty easily. The machinery maintenance, I thought I could do the same thing as take 2,000 off of that. I kind of looked at some of the end of the year stuff the last 2 months. And I think if we plan for that, it's not a problem. And the gravel road maintenance, the same thing, really. I think I can live without $2,000 on that one. So I think it's worth a try.
You're gonna be able to guarantee the snow removal?
Okay. Yeah, the snow removal, we did pretty well last year. It was like $9,600 left over, but that's year to year. You never know.
Sure.
We're off to a good start.
Tim, don't we have 50,875 in snow removal this year?
I thought it was just 50.
Yeah, the budget has 5875. I checked it too. I saw the same thing, Jim. That's what we put in for last year.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's fine. If it, obviously if we don't use it, it's just going back into the general fund. So, I mean, there have been years that we've overspent by, well, I don't recall exactly, but I know we've been over by 10,000 or more some years. But
Okay, so this would be it would be about an $850 reduction from this current year's budget for snow removal.
okay.
Tim, you've had increases with the private contractors. So are you sure you want to go down?
Well, I mean, the snow removal budget it's one that it kind of fluctuates year to year. So you're saying it's $800 less than the 50?
More. It's
More.
It should say,
50,875.
Okay,
let's make it say that.
that's fine. I mean, $58.75.
Tim,
Yes.
what did we or you pay Dave Boron to plow the roads around the lake this last season? What did that amount to?
I don't have it. Hold on a second. It looks like it was just under, well, it's about 63.75.
Hmm.
And then we paid Clark to Sumner Mountain was another probably another $700 or $800 for Clark to plow them down there, and they also sand them. It's worth it while they're there just to have them sand. It's such a short piece. It's better than having us make a trip all the way down there just to sand it. So, yeah, if you add it all together, it probably is a little more than $7,000 for private roads.
And that comes out of the 50,000, right?
It does, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Does Dave Boron do anything other than plowing around the lake? Does he grade? I know Dave very well, and he always is talking about working down there, but I don't know whether he's doing it privately or for the town.
No, he's doing that for the town. The only legal obligation we have to the lake roads is to plow and sand their roads. We don't have any maintenance of the roads. That's not included. So Dave definitely does do work down there, but he's working privately for
Okay,
whoever, for the association, I assume.
right. That sounds, okay, thank you.
Yep, yep.
Susie,
I have a couple questions, Tim.
Sure.
Are fuel costs in this, or do they come somewhere else?
No, that's a separate item. I think Becky handles that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a single budget line. We moved all three since we didn't pay for the $20,000 electronic piece. And it's on the expense report, it's the last category in general government, vehicle fuel. The budget's 34,131.
All righty, good. And the other question I had is, we are definitely in a climate change era. And I know I happened to be down on the old Wendell Road, and Steve was busy getting ready to grade that on a Wednesday, and on Friday we had that torrential rain that washed our road out. And so I know that gravel roads are pretty subject to the climate change, and I'm sure that hard rains affect some other roads. And so I'm wondering if you feel that you've had to do an increased amount of maintenance on these roads, and if it looks like a view to the future that you might need to have more work on gravel roads or wherever else culverts wash out or whatever else torrential rains do.
Yeah, we definitely had some big rains this year during the summer. We didn't lose any roads. Basically, if they're maintained well, I mean, you're still going to have some problems, but if the culverts are clear and there's a place for the water to go, basically it just makes the ditches deeper, and it washes some away, but your road stays intact for the most part. Where you run into trouble is, if you do have a plug culvert, especially on your Cooleyville Road, about the first 5 or 6 culverts are very key to that road, because if they're all taking water, the rest of the road stays pretty well. If they're plugged up, then, as you probably well remember, that'll wash that road out in a hurry. So through the years, I've learned that, those first half a dozen culverts, you want to really pay attention to them. So to answer your question, I think in the future, if we keep getting these big rain events, that, it may become necessary to up that budget line a little. I was just going by last year, and what I kind of looked at what we've gone through this year, and it seemed feasible that we could reduce it by a couple thousand. If that's not the case, if the weather keeps being an issue, one thing that we have had to do, which we used to do more sporadically, we've had to spray calcium chloride. And it's not on every road, but Montague Road especially, because it's the heavy traffic. It gets very dusty down there, and we've had, for the last couple of years, we've had to spray that with calcium chloride to keep the dust down. And that's not cheap. It usually runs about $5,000 a year to do it. As I said, we'd have a dry year in the past and you'd have to do it, but it's getting so, we seem to have to do it. Well, we've had to do it 2 or 3 years in a row now. So that may be something that we'll have to plan on an annual basis, but I mean, we'll just have to wait and see how the rain affects the roads, but their maintenance is a big thing. And a lot of that maintenance is just the town crew going out and doing what they do. Making sure there's a place for all that water to go. And yeah,
Tim,
that's about it.
it's a very exceptionally wet year, and we've had some seriously quick rainfalls. I think that you did a good job of preparing the roads for that, because my observation is they held up really well. And we've had some really tough rains, you know?
Hmm.
And it looked pretty good to me. Is that your observation too?
Yeah, they can, they can always be better, but I don't think they're in too bad a shape. We, you, you always have a few potholes here and there. That's pretty typical, but as far as washouts and we've been out, taking care of the culverts and ditches and stuff this fall. And we're getting Wendell Roads all set. Cooleyville's not bad. We've got, it's the hilly ones that you really worry about. But really all of them have needed some attention this year, but I think we're in pretty decent shape with them. Yes.
Melody,
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you. I'm just wondering, and I'm sorry, I don't want to take up a lot of time with this, but it's just more curiosity. I'm interested in this beaver removal. First of all, that the highway department's doing it, but then secondly, I was just curious, like, are these beavers on the roads, or are they, is it done humanely?
Yeah, this one site was on Baker Road. There was a device that was placed in the pond. There's a dam there, and there's a spillway, and the beavers were damming that up, and it was going around it. So I had a company put a pipe in, and it goes out into the pond, and it's called a pond leveler, and it basically keeps the water flowing. And they put a fence around it, and they attach the culvert to the fence, the pipe, and basically it controls the water level. The beavers come in after they're done, and they build a dam around it, but it really doesn't matter because the water's being controlled by the pipe. So that was working really well for a lot of years there. And this year we had, I think it was in July, we had that real big rain, and it really overwhelmed that whole site, and it all washed in, and it blocked the culvert at the road. And we cleared the culvert out, but the beavers kept coming back, and basically they were just overpopulated in that one area. And they would just keep building, and the pipe actually got separated from the fence, so it got kind of damaged when all that water rushed through there. So I had them come back and reattach the fence and put everything back. But in the meanwhile, before that, beavers are pretty industrious, and they come back every night, and they'll rebuild what you take away. So it's kind of unless you're planning on camping out there for every night, it's pretty tedious. So we trapped, I think it was about 6 beavers out of that site. And so I spent about $1,200 on, and yeah, he's a licensed trapper. He uses a suitcase trap that traps them without, there's no pain involved or anything. It just holds them until he can get there and collect them. So
He relocates them?
no, that's a common misconception. That's actually illegal to do. They have to euthanize them. That's the only, the state regulates that. They can't just take them somewhere and release them, because basically you're putting your problem onto somebody else.
Yeah,
So,
and also they carry diseases.
yeah, they do. Yep. So,
Thank you.
sure.
Tim, a question, one other budget question here. Your last item, the catch basin cleaning, I showed that's 5,000 for this year, for fiscal year 22 versus what's in here at 4,000.
Okay, let me look here. Okay, that was put in for FY23 at 5.
FY22, the current year is a 5.
22, okay. I had 4, but that's, maybe I'm maybe I got that wrong. Well, what we did last year, catch basin cleaning is we had a very good company last year come in and do it. They were from the eastern part of the state. And we've actually had the best luck with companies from the eastern part of the state, which is not usually the case. We've had an outfit from Agawam come up for a few years and do it. And the problem is their equipment. This guy came up with a vac truck, and it was a nice, fairly new machine. And he did, I don't have it in front of me, but I think he did all the basins. He just did them much quicker than the other guy. And they charge more, but they charge more per hour, but it's actually a better deal because he does so much more than the other guy. And this gets bid through the FERCog. So, every year it's apt to change. I hope we can get that same outfit back in the spring. That's usually when we do it because, all winter we sand the roads, and then, in the spring with the rain, it fills them up. And we don't have to do them all every year. We've kind of got a system. We got some rods that we can measure the depth of them. And so you don't have to do every single one every year, which is good because just on Leverett, Cooleyville, Prescott Road, there's 97 structures. So if we had to do them every year, it would get pretty expensive. But I think he did, if you'll bear with me just a second, I'll tell you how many he did last year. It was, yeah, he did 38 basins in like 16 hours, and that's actually really good. We've had some of these companies come in and like in a whole day, they might get 16 basins or something, he was doing better than 20 or 25 a day. So, we were really happy. But I guess my point is that, some years, it kind of depends who you get. And we spent, let's see. Yeah, we spent like $3,500 last year on that company. And it was well worth it. But we could leave it at 5, and then I generally only do it once a year. That seems to suffice. In the spring is the best time to do it. And so normally we don't do it in the fall. We may go out and check them, but it's usually an annual thing. So.
Tim, this is all arranged through FERCog?
It's bid through the FERCog, yeah, the catch basin cleaning, yep.
Uh,
Among other things, there's a lot of things that we bid through them, but that's one of them.
Yes, Tim, I just wanted to point out that the 4,000 request is 1,000 under the current budget. But I'd say, what are your thoughts? If you think you want to stick with the 5,000?
I looked at his proposal last year. He really did propose 4,000 last year. It just got put in the budget at 5.
Okay.
So last year he thought he could do it for 4,000, and so it makes sense he's still sticking with that. And we might end up with an extra 1,000 from that line item at the end of the year, or not.
I just want to echo that. I remember this discussion we had last year with you, Tim, and you reduced it last year from 5 to 4. And I don't know how it got in at 5, but you did it, make the similar or the same explanation of why you did that. And I think you felt confident that 4 was going to be adequate last year. And it was.
I'm okay with 4, yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, if that's the case, maybe just modify this sheet to show that you're 1,000 under the current year's budget.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only change here is adding 850 to the snow removal,
875.
Yeah,
875. Yeah.
yeah.
And let's hope it all stays in good weather.
Mhm.
So far, so good.
Yeah. Any questions?
You
Questions,
haven't had any,
comments?
you haven't had any trouble with, with the new diesel truck and all of the problems that come with the newer vehicles and the diesel emissions and what is it, tier 4, tier 5? I can't remember which one. They're all working out okay? You haven't had any,
Yeah,
severe,
we've got 2 diesels that fall under that category. The 2012, it's a 1-ton truck. That's a Ford. So far, so good. That takes DEF, that diesel exhaust fluid, and
Mhm.
we get that in bulk now, which is a good way to get it. And no, we haven't had any trouble yet with that. I think that truck's got around 35,000 miles on it.
Mhm.
Steve's truck, that's the newest big dump truck.
Mhm.
That's definitely a tier 4 engine. That takes the DEF, and so far, no big problems with that one. I was just trying to think of how many mile. I guess I don't know off the top of my head what it's got for mileage. I would guess it's probably over 20,000 on that truck. That's an 017. But yeah, no, we haven't really had any trouble yet. I hope we don't.
Mhm. Well, that's good news
Yeah.
because you're not, you are alone in that. There are quite a few who rue the day they bought a newer truck on account of that tier 4 stuff. So I'm glad to hear that it's working okay for you.
Yeah, so far so good. Yep. Yep.
Anything else for Tim? Tim, thanks very much
Okay.
for
Thanks, Tim.
going
I
through this.
just want to mention one thing. I'm sitting here listening. This is our last chance to review a budget with Tim. He will be retired by this time next year. So, Tim, I want to thank you for presenting one more budget, and I hope you don't go too far away.
Road.
One town. All right, thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
All
Take
right,
care.
good night.
Tim?
Becca, do you want to drop that off, that?
Yeah.
Budget? Becca, you sent us something a couple of days ago with some updated balances for capital stabilization and stabilization
Yep.
that we all have. And I guess I had some questions on that. It looks like the total between the two is similar to where our original balances or expected balances are, but stabilization is much higher by a couple $100,000 and capital stabilization is lower by the same. Yeah, there we
Correct.
go. Yeah.
Okay, and can everybody see it? I don't have a green screen around it.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. That's weird. You see my email?
Yeah, we see your whole email.
Okay, so what happened is, you know how I got all the detail on our balances as I always do from our expense report.
Yeah.
And because Gail had not yet put in all the annual town meeting updates on those balances. So that caused this problem. And in fact, what I sent you was before I sat down with Gail, so I have one more additional change to make. 200,000 needs to be added to the capital stabilization and 200 subtracted from the regular stabilization. When I
Okay, that would
went-
be more in line with what we would expect.
Yeah. So that final, the 200,000, I hadn't captured when I made all her adjustments. I mean, I kept, it's just, it wasn't in the right place. I had put it at stabilization when it should have been capital stabilization.
Okay, so there's gonna be another version of this that looks more like about 370,000 in capital stabilization?
772, 27, and exactly 455,201.59.
Okay, so that's more in line with what we would have expected. So you're gonna send us another update? That was a
I will,
question.
but I know Susie and George have already written this all down and in their notes, but I will be sending them an email.
Please do.
Yeah, just, yeah, like maybe it's for the
And then-
record.
No, we,
Within 1 or 2 expense reports,
Yeah, it'll show
the
up.
full updates will be represented there, so you won't need to rely on this calculation.
Right.
And all the changes were corrected for the library report before the final copy was printed up yesterday.
Mhm.
Or I mean,
Good.
today.
Mhm. Good.
Becky, do we know when we're gonna hear about the library application? Does anybody, have they set a date?
January?
That's when the grant announcement, you mean?
Yes.
That would be the end of January, maybe February.
who's the other town again?
Otis.
Otis.
Okay.
Okay, so. Any other questions?
Good. Expense report review, anything?
Do we have one up to date?
No,
updated?
we don't have one.
Well, we got the end of the year one, right? We got the wrap up one,
For 2021?
But not one since.
right?
Right, not one for 22, current. Or is that about to change?
Yeah, it just came out last night. And you guys don't like to get them right before a meeting, so I will send it to you now. So you'll have it for the next meeting.
Okay, thanks, Becky. Is there anything, have you had a chance, Becky, to take a look? And is there anything, if so, is there anything from your perspective we should be thinking about or aware of?
I did not see anything on my first look. We're just, I don't see any salaries that are out of whack. School choice. Yeah, school choice is a little bit lower, which could be a good thing, but it could be timing.
Becky, I have a question. Do you know if the state decided to deal with enrollment in light of COVID any differently than the formula or the regular requirement? Are they giving us another pass?
Yeah. I have not heard that.
So wouldn't it be somewhere in here? I don't know. I'm just curious. I don't remember the timing. Isn't it as
It's
of
October
October?
1st, so we should have already heard about it if it was going to happen.
I wonder if we need to check with our legislators, because I do know school enrollments are still screwy.
So I can check with DESE.
Or I could do that. I'll check
Okay.
I just wondered if it was in the news turmoil.
The what?
If it was in the turmoil, because last year it was part of the turmoil. They were having to bring the state's attention to this, and our legislators were part of doing that.
Well, Susie, I think last year they agreed to leave all towns harmless from any reductions in Chapter 70 money. So I think that they're probably doing that again, or are they not, Becky?
That's what I haven't checked. So,
But they're flush of money. I mean, it's not likely they're gonna decrease, right?
They like to distribute it to other people besides us, George, in case you haven't noticed.
No, but they have, but they're not, but the question about decrease in Chapter 70,
No, I don't think they're going to do that. I think that would be one of the
Mm,
first things they would address in this time, but
We'll see. I'll check with DESE and see if they're using the enrollment numbers in the formula or if they've adjusted that somehow.
but it was interesting, Peter Deming, I think is his name, did say, hey, get out there and beat the bushes and tell your legislatures, forget about hold harmless.
right. Well,
But there hasn't been any talk about that though lately, has there, Becky?
well, the House and Senate, they took their recess for the holidays about a month ago. So they're all set, but they didn't really finish up the COVID money, all the stimulus money that's out there. They didn't do anything. They didn't sort out how they're going to distribute it to the towns and communities.
They don't finish their budget till after our town meeting.
But this money that's coming from the feds, they haven't even started to work on how they're going to cut it up. So we have no clue how that's going to work out for Shutes.
Yeah, Becky,
yeah,
it looks like you just sent us an email, but the report is not attached. The expense report is not attached.
I thought I just forwarded Gail's with the attachment. It's not there.
Yeah, you have Gail's message, but not the attachment.
Oh, sorry, I'll try again.
Mhm.
Sorry about that. Too many windows open. Can't see anything. This is where we'll say I need a big screen.
Mm-hmm. Or 2 or 3 screens.
Yeah. Just learning how to do that. Okay. I'm sorry, I did not forward it. I thought I forwarded it, but must not have been. Okay.
Okay, so we'll be ready. We can go through that next meeting in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right. Committee reports. Susie.
The school committee met the night after we met, and they received a draft budget proposal, which they approved. And I made some suggestions about some of the notations, and then I received it from Bruce, and I made a list of questions. And I hope to hear back from him. I sent him the list of questions on Monday. The holiday intervened here. And so I have some questions, and then the school committee's on our schedule for January 11th, but I will get this out to you as soon as I get some of the questions cleared up. And we're trying to track some of the funding right in the lines instead of just a bottom line, oh, this is our revenues that we're applying. So, but the other piece is that Bruce is retiring. I think that's the right word. And they're in the process of hiring a new financial director for U28. So first of all, he has a lot of things he's wrapping up, and he got the draft budgets out. So anyways, I hope to have a conversation with him, and then I will, maybe that will change the way the draft looks so that we can follow and understand the funding a little bit better.
Thanks, Susie.
I guess I should also say the general thrust of it is that it's a 2.48% increase for Shutesbury, which is, where's that number? Up this page, which is 55,545 increase for us at this draft.
Is that
Susie, did
before-
you say they approved it? The school committee
Yes.
approved it?
They approved the draft.
So you're gonna send that along to us, Susie, when it's,
Yeah, I think it will be helpful if I get some questions answered before I send it out, because you'll probably ask the same questions.
That would be helpful.
Jim?
I don't have an update for the MLP because our meeting is a couple of weeks away when we talk about all things great and small. But I do have two unrelated questions, Becky, for Becky and for others too. Kohl's recently announced, as of a week or so ago, it was in the Athol Daily News, among other places, that they have put a huge chunk of their forest land into conservation reserve. And I was wondering whether that applied to the land that was north of the Leverett Shutesbury Road, which is where all these solar panels are going to go. Would you know anything about that, Becky?
Jim, there was an announcement a year and a half ago, I believe, when, where they put, they did about it was over almost 2,000 acres they put into a CR in Shutesbury. And
Mhm.
a lot of it is around the Pratt Corner area
Yeah,
and between
Wheelock,
West
yeah.
Element and around Wheelock. But it's about a 2,000 acre parcels, I mean, group of parcels.
Yeah, they're very vague on where all these parcels were, but it was it was like $3 million they were getting from Kestrel Land Trust and a whole bunch of other places. And I was just curious, I assumed that it did not apply to the areas in question where AMP Solar wants to put in their panels.
Well,
Is
see,
that-
the relationship between the two things is when Kohl's did their CR,
Mhm.
they delayed for about 2 years while they studied their parcels and carved out the areas where solar potentially could go.
I see.
So, and yeah, it's directly related. They
I see.
intentionally carved out those areas for potential solar development in the future, because
Yeah.
if they hadn't, they wouldn't have been able to do it
Oh, okay.
afterwards.
Oh, so
let's be
the
clear, the restricted land will not have solar installations on it.
yes, that's right.
Correct. It's a carve out within the
It's carved out
conservation.
as a developable land.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for which
so it's
Kohl's,
developable. So if it's not solar, I believe it can be used for something else.
Sure.
Logging.
for which Kohl's got about $3 million.
Not logging,
They
housing.
can log the restricted land.
Yeah, they can log the restricted land. The
Oh, yeah,
other
I know. I
can
know they
be
can.
Developed in another way.
Yeah, but they can't develop it. And they repay, and they were paid handsomely, I might add, for this.
Well, it's 2,000 acres of pristine Shutesbury forest that we get the
Mhm.
benefit of.
Mhm. Oh, yes, yeah.
That's the lost value that they've sustained. And that's what the whole deal is.
Yeah, somebody has their,
Walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
I've got some questions, Becky, just a status or update on the 3 capital projects that are going on now, the culvert, the roof in the school, and the HVAC problem at the school.
culvert is on hold until August, September. The school had work done over Thanksgiving, and they're still hoping if we don't have if we don't have snow before the holiday vacation, they potentially could wrap up the project.
So during the Christmas break?
Yeah. Yeah, that was their initial plan.
The
That's
school
the
roof.
roof, the roof.
The gym roof.
Oh, that's excellent. That's
And
good news.
and so that roof will then be tied into the storm drains, right?
Yes, which it is not at this time.
No, it's still coming out the scuppers and down onto the sidewalk.
Right.
I mean, what's not going down the pipe, right? Now,
Right.
the HVAC, what about that one?
That one is top priority, and the funding was in question for, we just had to, there was a question about the funding, which has been settled, so we can move full speed ahead with Hessner at this time.
What's the funding? I mean,
$17,000.
it's coming from the grant, right?
We actually have the backup that it came from, and there was a vote at annual town meeting for $17,000.
Oh, yeah,
So that's the backup if it's not funded by the grant because of timing.
right. I mean, I got an email, you got it too, I'm sure. I think it was this morning or yesterday, that there's a heating issue now at the school like there was late last winter, early spring. And we might run into some problems. And so I'm concerned that we got to get going on that
Mhm.
rapidly. I don't know why it's taken us so long, but now that we're in the middle of the school year, it's going to be that much more difficult to address the thing in an other than piecemeal manner.
Well, the work was always scheduled to be during the summer or in the spring. So the engineering still has to be completed
Has to be started.
and completed.
Yeah. Right. So we got a ways to go. Okay.
Jim, you've got Susie and Jim Hemingway.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my mute wasn't unmuting. Susie and then Jim.
So Bob, you thought there was a chance they could get to the sliders over Thanksgiving. Did that happen?
Mute,
You're
you're on
muted.
mute.
I'm trying to, I have a difficulty. I've got 2 bids and I've had a lot of difficulty. There's another issue here, which I'd like to bring up to FinCom sometime about the building committee. However, I don't know if people want to deal with it tonight. I prefer to do it later myself. However, the upshot is this: we do have 2 bids. We have not voted on them. I had a series of questions to ask one of the bidders, Ron Natick. He was much lower than Randy Roberts down in Hadley. Both people seem competent. Randy has a more of a storefront operation, which probably means he has higher overheads and stuff. He sent me a standard contract for $6,000 to install, which seems quite high to me. Ron Natick was less than 50% of that, his price. I did send him a list of questions, just making sure that he understood the requirements they would have to undertake to be legal over there. And that is, paying rate and having the proper insurances and so forth. So I'm waiting to address that with the building committee and then present our findings and our recommendation over to school committee and selectmen and so forth. But it's very difficult to get anybody to do anything. I know this is a critical issue. So we're looking at this as a this is a very important thing to get done. We have the windows in hand. They're over at RK Miles right now. So we'll just bring this forward to the committee and then carry it forward. But I just want Ron Natick to answer my questions. He's not a particularly technically savvy guy. It took him about 8 attempts to send me an email. And I got one finally from him, but now he won't answer his cell phone. So that's not a great sign, but I'm still hopeful that he's a local, that he'll respond. And now the other issue is we have tried to get meetings of the building committee. 2 of our members don't show up, and so, but it's still counted against the total for quorum purposes. That's one issue. The other issue is every time we seem to come to an agreement about when we can meet, the 2 Zoom accounts are already been, somebody else has dibs on them or something. So between the 2 of them, it's been tough because we can't just have a meeting like in the good old days when we choose, when it's convenient for us. So I'm hopeful that within the next week, we'll have a meeting, we'll vote on this. I'll have the information to present to the committee, and then we'll get this damn window put in. Because the last big storm that we had that blew from the south, that really hammered that window with sheets of rain. And it then went in through the bottom rail of the window of the door. One good thing is, excuse me, that we did not replace the flooring in there because we wanted this job to be done prior to that, because we didn't want to have to risk damaging the new floor. So I guess you could call that good news that we didn't replace the floor. It is from my point of view, we didn't damage the floor after that. One storm did leak. It shouldn't generally leak because there is an overhang over this door, but in a pounding driving rain, it will leak, and it did that one time. And that was not nice. The school did not like that. I don't blame them. So we're working on it.
Anything else while we're talking capital planning? You guys you're meeting next week? AJ and Bob?
Yep.
So
I think the departments had a deadline, I think at the end of this week, to submit their
So the third, I think,
any
was,
request. Yeah. And so we'll be discussing it next week.
Yep.
Jim,
Yes, Becky, do we have any facts and figures on what historically what the cleanup costs for Lotto 32 have been? I sent you an email about this, but I haven't heard back from you yet.
No, I haven't gotten it compiled yet. It's
Okay.
basically around $30,000 that was already in the budget. But Mary Ann has, the library friends paid for some of that, not
Yeah.
just the town. So I need to get with her to get all those numbers. And I will get back to you.
I got
Oh,
an email.
thank you very much.
I got a joint, one of those group emails from Mary Ann saying they'd spent $16,000 from Friends of the Library. I think that was very recently, so that may be part of the answer.
Oh,
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Yes, I remember seeing the 16.
okay. Any other committee reports? Let's see, the personnel board, or is it Melody,
Nothing new.
George, or,
Yeah, nothing new from the last
Nothing?
report.
okay. I can speak to the fire with Walter retiring. We've got together a couple of times. We're still mostly focused on understanding the current role and all the responsibilities that go with it, and we'll be moving. We're meeting on a weekly basis every Wednesday. Hopefully wrapping this up sometime in the next couple of months.
I saw Leverett's going to a full-time fire chief,
Say that Leverett is.
going to a full-time fire chief. That was in the paper about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think that they're combining two positions which were both paid, but they were both under 20 hours to
Oh,
a
is that what it was?
fully benefited position, single fully benefited position.
Hmm.
I'm not sure it's 40 hours, but might be.
Okay, any other reports from committees? We're good. Next meeting, we do have one for we'll meet next week with select board, school board. We would aim for 2 weeks from now, and we talked about moving back to Tuesdays. Do we still want to look at going back to Tuesdays from our current Wednesdays? Melody?
Great.
Yeah, if we can possibly stay Wednesday, that would be great, because the classes that I'm doing, they tend to do Tuesdays. I can try to get different days, but I'm not sure. But if most people want to do Tuesday, then I will try my best to make Tuesday.
I'm okay either way.
Wednesday's
preference for
fine.
me.
Wednesday's fine for me.
I have no preference. I prefer Tuesdays, but I'm fine with Wednesdays if that's best.
So we should redo the department meeting schedule and let those people know we're looking at Wednesdays and dates that meet that.
Okay, so for now, we'll stick with Wednesdays,
For the time being,
which means our next meeting will be the 15th at 6:30.
Preferably 7, but because the MLP meets on Wednesday, third Wednesday, and that would be on the 15th, and we meet it, but we started earlier now at 5 o'clock, so we might be able to wrap it up by 6:30, but I can't guarantee that.
I hope we can stay at 6:30 because I start getting really sleepy. You know,
All right, all right. Well,
We're
Bob, you're
already-
getting,
the Celtics
you're getting
game already
old,
too,
Bob.
by the way.
Hey, we like you when you're sleepy, Bob.
no, well, you know, then have it at 9:30 and I'll be sleeping.
Instead of sleep. So
Okay, so-
Wednesday, the 15th at 6:30.
Okay, so we're all good for that for 6:30 next 2 weeks from now?
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
50-50, but yeah.
And so Melody, is this preference for Wednesday extending through our fiscal planning year, which ends on April 30th?
Yes, but again, I can try to be flexible if Tuesday is better for everybody.
yeah, Tuesday's best for me, but I can make Wednesdays. I'll make it work.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody's flexibility.
Jim, I'm sorry to throw a wrench. I just occurred to me. I'm actually traveling the night of the 15th. So I don't know if you,
Can we do, and I've
if I
already
sit out
told-
that meeting or, yeah.
Yeah, because the library and fire are both planning on Tuesday. For just this
14th.
one, yeah, if for just this 1 week, if we could do the 14th.
Okay.
Melody, is that okay? Yeah,
I can make it work, definitely.
okay, all right.
All right, so we're gonna,
We don't have school this come on the 14th, right? Is school over?
Yeah, I'm in between, so yeah.
Yeah, so if we could go the 2, and you would start up again in early January or when?
Let me look at the calendar, just a second.
Yeah, because I'd appreciate staying on Tuesdays until Melody has to go back to school because,
Yeah, it would be January. Yep.
and do you know the date?
I have to get that to you, but I'll get it to you right as soon as I can.
Okay, because there's January 11th, we have with the elementary school, and I had just sent them an email about that. So I need to know if that's going to change or not.
Okay, I will get that to you tomorrow, Becky.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask about next week's meeting? Is it what time? Is it at 5:30?
Yes.
that's what
Yes,
we jotted down, 5:30,
Okay,
unless
good.
Becky tells us otherwise.
5:30, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Good, that's a very sensible time.
All right. We've wrapped up our agenda, unless somebody else says,
We don't have to keep going, do we?
well, we could,
Nope.
we could probably come up with something, Bob, I'm sure.
I make a motion, we adjourn this meeting before we
second.
come up with better ideas.
Exactly. Second,
Before we get ideas, you're gonna nip it in the bud, Susie.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We-
Oh,
George?
right, aye.
Chartier, I.
Grove's eye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, eye.
Mosier, aye.
Walton, aye. All right, we see everybody next week.
So Sixers tonight,
Oh.
George.
Well, hey, Sixers are beatable. We can take those guys. They don't have their man.
All
Celtics
right.
are beatable too.
That's the way, George.
Yes, that's true.
That's the attitude. Have a good one.
Yeah, but you never know what you're gonna get night to night.
All right, good night.
Good night.
good night, everybody. Thank
Oh,
you.
Becky, I just got an email from April saying, is it true that we're meeting on Wednesday? That's in my notes. I just got that email. So I'll ask her.
I already did. April was emailing me.
That's
so
where it came from.
she
Okay.
said- Yeah, she said 6:15. I emailed back, we need to move it to 6:30. So I'm gonna send an email to the full personnel board and see if they can do 6:30.
Okay.
And all should be well.
That sounds great, Becky. Okay. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.